Hey everyone, this is Jamie Pate, and I'm so glad you're here for this video. Today is a big day because the new Distress color has been revealed by Ranger and Tim Holtz. You should by now know what the brand new color is, and in case you don't, and this is your first time, it is called Prize Ribbon. It is a gorgeous, rich, deep, trendy blue. I know that really tells you exactly what this is. Well, let me tell you, by the time we get done today, you're going to kind of get an idea what this color is. I have several things I want to share with you today on this video. The first one is a comparison. We are going to compare 3 other blue colors that are part of the Distress Oxide collection. So you can see here, let me see, I think the next darkest blue would be Chipped Sapphire, and then Faded Jean, and then an obvious softer color, Salty Ocean. So I'm going to take these 4 colors and using this Stampers Anonymous Broke stamp and some tags I made, I took Distress White Heavy Stock 8.5 by 11 paper and I cut it down to 3 by 5, and then I trimmed a little tag looking notch at the edge to make it look like a tag because I just like tags, and then I used the We Are Memory Keepers reinforce hole punch to create the little hole punch on top. I just make my own little cards like that. So it's just one really easy way to swatch out a new color or to try a new technique, and then to have it for either a future background you want to use or just as a reference. So let's get started. I'm going to show you right here. I have already swatched out the brand new Prize Ribbon. So you can see, like I said, it is a gorgeous, rich, true kind of blue, sort of military. I'm pretty excited about it, and obviously it comes off in this very beautiful, almost sort of a matte chalky texture when you stamp with Distress Oxide. So I'm going to set this over here so you can kind of keep a reference point. Like I said, I wanted to kind of try the next darkest color, and I think the next darkest is Chipped Sapphire. So let's get this one sampled out on my little homemade tag here. And so I'm just going to tap, tap, tap on probably just only half of this rubber stamp. I have a very large stamp block here that's by Scrapbook.com, and so you can see already comparing these 2 colors, the Chipped Sapphire to the Prize Ribbon. The Chipped Sapphire has a little bit more of what I would call a purple hue. It'd be the purple side of the blue, whereas this is staying a really true blue. Okay, so I cleaned the stamp in between applications, and now I have the Faded Jean here on the stamp, and you can already tell it's quite a muted blue. So let's give it its place here on my homemade tag. Make sure I have a really good impression. I love the size of the stamp block just for this purpose here. Okay, so as I look at this, and I know it's a little bit harder to see on the screen, and I've already smudged it. Just so you know, not a neat crafter here, just not happening. Okay, so this is the Faded jeans, and like I could tell when it was still on its stamp, it's very muted. You can see how brilliant and bright the Prize Ribbon is compared to a little more of the purple family here in the Chipped Sapphire, and then the Faded Jeans is just another version of a blue that is it's jeans. It's like a denim, it's your classic denim jeans. All right, I now have a good application of the Salty Ocean on this particular stamp, and just going to do like we've done before. This time I'm going to try to apply it without making a smudge. What do you say? This is a really beautiful way too, by the way, to use this stamp, just with part of it coming up from the bottom of the edge. I really liked that look. It was really pretty. All right, so Salty Ocean. Wow. So that makes you go, okay, wow, right? Look at the difference there. to a bright, vibrant, beachy, very beachy blue. Well, salted ocean, Jamie. Salty ocean, what do you know? Yeah, it is about the beach. Okay, so there's our comparison of the 4 colors. And just for a review, and I encourage you, do this at home. So make your own tags, take the Distress White Heavy Stock and craft out your own tags, whatever size you want. And play with your stamp colors, your ink colors, and get to know them a little bit. So like I said, we have the prize ribbon here to start with. Beautiful color. I'm a fan. Then we have a chipped sapphire. Here is this next color. And then the third one, let me put the tag down here, was the faded jeans. And to finish everything off, we included our salty friend, Salty Ocean. Okay, I'm going to clear my space, and I have a little technique I want to share with you using the collection from the new Distress Colors, that is Prize Ribbon. All right, next, I'm super excited to share this tag with you. On this tag, there are several different techniques using Prize Ribbon. And then please don't limit yourself to just making a tag. I hope that you'll find those techniques on scrapbook pages or card fronts, gift toppers, or even an art journal. To start, I want to show you how to make what I call an enameled title. I have taken Scrapbook.com sentiment dies. I've pre-cut some, I've pre-made some enamel titles already, as you can see. I love having these on the ready. And what I'm going to do, I've cut the hello sentiment out of heavy white cardstock. I'm going to then cover it with Ranger's Distress Embossing Dabber, not a fun word, dabber, fun word. Just as good coverage as I can get. I will tell you though, I will do this twice to get a really good foundation on this embossing glaze. So what I mean by that. So to do it one time is not going to cover completely how I would love this to be covered. So it'll require me to actually emboss twice. So cover with the embossing fluid, then you cover with the embossing glaze, pull that out gently as you can, and then take your heat gun and melt the embossing powder. And like I said, I do that twice, and I have one made up here already. So it creates a beautiful enamel title, just like I described to you. Now let's go ahead and show you the rest of how this is done. Once the enamel has cooled, then I take, you can see I had several of these cut out. I will take and kind of build up my title. Does that make sense? While the heavy weight cardstock is a great weight for any kind of embellishment or something that's going to hold a medium, it definitely is a great weight for that. I want then to take a second and even sometimes a third piece of die cut cardstock, add a thin layer of glue to it, and then layer this on top. Now, a couple things you can do here. You can either line this up perfectly, so all you're seeing is the initial front embossed hello, or you can kind of stagger it so you have a bit of a drop shadow in the background. Either way is a beautiful effect. I'm going to try to line it up as close to the lines as possible so there's just one singular title there and not necessarily a drop shadow. So I'm pretty happy with how that looks. I'm going to set this aside, I'm going to let it dry, and let me show you the next part to this tag. All right, the next part of this tag has to do with creating the background. I have here one of my handmade tags. I'm going to grab, I love this ledger tape from Heidi Swapp Carefree Collection. I'm going to lay this down first. I didn't do this the first time I made the tag, but I'm going to do it now because I want my stenciling, which I'm going to show you what that's about here in a moment. I want my stenciling to go over the washi tape. So that's why this is going to come down here first. Okay, before I add the stenciling to this, I have a really important part I want to show you. Now this can be done with any of the Distress colors. But what I want to show you is how beautiful this tattered rose plays nicely with the prize ribbon. I really love this combination. I'm going to smush a little bit of this color on my silicone mat. I don't need a whole lot, just some. And I'm going to color the Ranger texture paste. And all you have to do, and this works again for any of the colors, and I don't actually need a lot of paste for this technique. So it's like frosting. I love it. It's just like coloring frosting with your spatula if you're a baker out there. And maybe that's a weird thing, but that's what it makes me think of. Sorry, I digress. Okay, so I have this now. Just a real subtle color. I didn't need a lot of color. I'm only going to put a couple of sprigs on the tag here. Let me get it in a place where I can bring in this botanical sprigs stencil, the very beautiful stencil. I'm really excited about just being able to come in here and just kind of carefully texture over one of the sprigs. And I'm starting with the top first. I just thought it might be easier to start here. And you can leave the surface of your texture paste kind of, what do they call it? Impaste? I don't think that's the right term. It's not coming to me right now, but I think you know what I mean. Or you can smooth it out. I prefer to make mine kind of smooth. And then I'm going to come down here and I will line this up here in the corner. I like to have corners talking to each other. I know I just mashed my texture paste over here. That's okay, I can move it. Again, you don't need a lot of the texture paste at all. And just be careful that you are only getting the sprigs that you want. You can do this as many times as you want. You can do it one time. I just really think it's a pretty technique. I'm going to set this aside and let it dry while we do the next technique. Next is our butterfly, and I just love butterflies. I love this Thinlit Detailed Mini Butterfly by Tim Holtz, and I have one of those 4 dies already picked out. I'm going to take a piece of the heavy white cardstock, and I'm going to create a tattered rose background on this piece of swatched paper. Then I'm going to add in a stamp to create the background for the butterfly here. I think when I played with this little technique, it for me kind of made the butterfly look like a piece of broken china. It made me think of that china pattern piece with the landscape that's done in blue, and that's kind of what the prize ribbon reminded me of. Purely on accident, but that's just for me what that looked like. So I want to recreate that here with you. I have smushed the Distress Oxide Tattered Rose on the silicone mat. I sprayed it with some water. I'm just going to layer on color, and in between layering the color, I'm going to dry this with my heat gun and then add some more color, just basically until I'm happy with it. So I've just built up some layers of the tattered rose, dried it, didn't necessarily want my background completely covered. And so I'm pretty happy with how that looks, just making sure all my little splotches are dry here. All right, then to create the blue, this is what I did. This could work for a lot of different stamps. I happen to choose the Stamper's Anonymous Ledger Script. I'm using Scrapbook.com, one of its larger stamp blocks. I just like having these stamps on a block. Now this is going to stamp very bright and vibrant, and that's okay, because you can see how that blue super stands out there on that butterfly. It's exactly what I want. This is in no way a perfect technique. It is just a fun technique to create some color on a background and then die cut out the butterfly. A little bit of water I'm going to spray on here just to kind of give a little bit of a watercolor look. I'm going to dry this and then punch this with my die into the butterfly shape. These are going to look different every time. I'm super happy with how this looks this time. I'm happy every time. I've made several of these so far. It's just really pretty with the tattered rose. Don't be afraid to experiment with different colorways and the prize ribbon. It really does go with so many gorgeous colors. I'm just showing you one of them here. Okay, so you can see so far we have a background tag. We have our textured background with the stencil and texture paste. I've created our butterfly cutout with a beautiful background. We have our enamel title. I'm going to add one more background layer to this tag, and then we're going to put it all together. I think our background's all ready, and we're going to start adding now all our elements. The butterfly is ready to go. I'm just going to lift the wings a little bit. I'm going to add a piece of 1/8 inch foam to the back. This is an exclusive foam adhesive from Scrapbook.com. And this way the butterfly will have a little bit of height from the surface. Going to add some strips of the 1/8 inch foam. Now this is a little trickier because in places the foam is a little wider than the title. And I'm just going to trim away on the front side where I think that is being seen. Actually, I didn't do a bad job. Just going to get these little backer papers off and we're good to go. And it's just going to sit there right like that. I have already pre-colored some seam binding with Distress spray. And you just add the color to the ribbon, add water if you want it to be not quite as bright, and then dry it or set it aside to let it dry on its own. And seam binding is just always a beautiful addition to a tag. And that's how this tag came together. And lots of techniques here for you to take into your other paper crafts. And I have one more technique still to show you today. All right, next and the final technique I want to share with you guys is utilizing this perspective butterfly, very large die cut. It's about 6 inches tall, and incorporate it onto a layout after it has been colorized, and using not only the Distress Oxide and the prize ribbon, but also the embossing glaze as well on this butterfly to really help it stand out on this 6 by 12 inch layout that I have in mind to create. So to start, I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here and grab the tattered rose and an ink dome, an ink blending dome, and I'm just going to color the body of the butterfly to start, and probably just a little bit of the wing parts here. Now, this is just kind of a brushing on, a tapping on of the ink and a brushing on here of the Distress ink onto this cardstock. And this time I'm using Vicki Bouton's 12 by 12 Foundations media paper, mixed media paper. And it's not quite as white. And I just liked the weight of it for this particular technique. Next, I'm going to grab Victorian Velvet. And I wanted to show you guys, remember I talked earlier with the tag, just the soft colors with the brilliant prize ribbon. That's another thing I want to point out to you and share with you in this little technique here. So taking Victorian Velvet, I'm going to go and do a larger swath of the wings here up top. Going to leave these outer edges, and obviously that's going to be for the prize ribbon. And then the thing about adding in color with the ink blender is you can go as heavy as you want, as you can go as light as you want. So this is probably basically a medium application I am doing here with both the Victorian Velvet as well as the tattered rose that I applied to the body. When I come in here in a moment and bring in the prize ribbon, it's going to be a little bit of a softer technique. I don't want it to be extra heavy. I don't want the color to weigh, and I think it's a matter of weighing, the other two pinks that are now part of this butterfly. So that is what I'm going to color with those two. Now I'm just going to give myself a little bit of space here and bring in the prize ribbon. So not a heavy hand at all. If there's any kind of heavy hand, it's going to pick up kind of on the edges, which is fine. And I'm going to kind of come in here a little heavy at the very edge, but you're going to see we're going to bring another technique in here to those edges in a moment. So I'm trying to stay as symmetrical as possible. And you know, the thing is with the real butterfly, I mean, the colors are pretty symmetrical, right? But yeah. And then same thing here with the bottom edge. I'm going to just apply this color until I'm happy with the shading and with how much color I have. And if I need to come back in here with this a little bit, I will. Now I'm going to take the Distress embossing pen, and this is actually, I want the brush. And it has exactly what it's called. It has a brush tip. I am going to, over my color, just on the very edge of this, add in some embossing fluid and then go in with the embossing glaze and emboss just the edges. And so I'm going to go ahead and add that there now so you can see how this looks when it's done. And I'm careful just to get the powder just right on the edge, right where the embossing fluid is. I don't want the whole thing covered. You can see how much darker that is right where the powder is. So I'm going to melt this with the heat gun and show you the results. Here's how that embossing glaze played out on the tips of this butterfly. And I also added it here to the bottom. So it makes for a gorgeous, large embellishment. The colors play together beautifully. Prized ribbon is gorgeous with the tattered rose as well as the Victorian velvet, along with so many other colors. And it's just going to be great to take these techniques and put them to work on your cards, your tags, your scrapbook pages, your banners, whatever it is you want to make. Grab the prized ribbon. And thank you so much for being a part of this video today. And any questions, please drop them in the comments below and I will check in and I'll see you in the next video.